Oh shit. What time is it? Oh no. It's 2018. Fuck. Well, I guess it's time to get back on that YouTube grind. 1 second, folks. Yo! What's going on? How you guys doing? Hope you enjoy your holidays because we back, baby! Ah! I'm talking a bunch of bullshit. Don't mind me, I'm just a little bit insane. I don't know where I get that from. It might be in the name. Anywho, I know people are going to bring it up. Fire Emblem Warriors stuff will be covered. We got DLC coming out. So I want to do this video because it's still fresh in my mind. The Warrior stuff I'll pick back up probably when that second DLC comes out, which I believe is the Shadow Dragon DLC, if I remember correctly. So, anywho, we're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Switch that I just beat on January 1st. So I got the game on December 1st and it took me a month to beat it. And I think I clocked in right now, says I have about 99 hours, although I think I beat the game technically like 97, 98. So, give or take, and from what I've heard, the range actually seems to be like somewhere between 70, around 70 hours. So, it doesn't actually take as long. Although I think, if I had to argue, I think X was shorter. X was like 60 hours. I think you could beat X in 50 or 60 hours. So, this is the longer game. And it was a pretty good fucking experience. Now, for those who don't know, my history with Xenoblade is literally just playing X and Chronicles 2. I've never played I started. Why I did that so stupid? I started playing the original game, but never got too far into it, and kind of fell out and lost interest. So when the new game came out, X was the newest game on the block. Played that, enjoyed that. Played this. This game is so good, yo, and it trips me out because it's a game that really did not need to come out. Like, I think people would have said, oh, Xenoblade is delayed until 2018, and I think everybody would have been like, alright, it's fine, it's perfectly fine. No, they said, no, we probably need to put out something for December, and all the Nintendo fans were like, that's like a 100-hour game, sir, like at least a 60, 70-hour game. You ain't beating that in no fucking, like, well, you could. Theoretically, you could. But most people ain't beating that in no fucking week. Most people it's going to take them a month. You know, give or take. And say, fuck it, we're still putting it out because we want to show you that when we put out games, we tell you release dates, the motherfucker's coming out in the same year. It was like X took, 3 years? X came out in 2015? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, X came out in 2015. And it was announced in like 2013, so it took like 2 years, I think. I don't remember specifically, but I think that was the general time frame. The point is that you went from a game that was announced and shown and actually like put out to the public in the span of like 2 years to a game that was literally shown and released within like 9 months. And if you want the non-spoiler talk, the simple answer is the game is great. I think the only major complaints you can really have about the game is I know people don't like the dub, and I get it. The dub is that very hit or miss situation, which is an issue with just dubs in general for a lot of Japanese products. Anime has the same problem where characters sound completely different than what you would expect them to sound like in Japanese. And consider it, and that usually goes for the girls a lot more than it does for the guys, because a lot of people say that Mithra/Pyra's voice actress is kind of stiff, which I kind of agree. You can tell in certain sequences. Certain sequences that should have a lot more inflection in the voice acting doesn't. And on top of that, every rare blade has a voice and has voice acted heart-to-heart sequences. Some of their voices range from being like, oh, it's pretty good, to, oh. And some of them are just weird fucking choices in general, which I heard some people have an issue with the fact that the game because the game was, I believe, dubbed in Europe because it was Nintendo of Europe who was working on the localization. There's a lot of European accents. I mean, you got some just normal English, but you also just got a lot of Scottish, Welsh, just a lot of different European accents. And I know, like, Retro Death, one of Just Loose podcast members, isn't a fan of the bombardment of different languages or different. Well, yeah, technically it's different languages. I personally don't mind the dub. I played the whole game in dub, didn't have really an issue with it. Obviously, the Japanese version is going to be easier on the ears because the thing about English voice acting is that if you speak English and English is your first language, even if it isn't like Welsh or something, it's still generally English with just like a Welsh inflection with some minor differences in certain words and shit. So like you can tell stilted acting from good acting, whereas in Japanese, and it's always been my argument with anime, you can't tell what good Japanese voice acting sounds like and what bad Japanese voice acting sounds like. Because Japanese voice acting can easily be viewed as over the top, but you can't fucking tell. Good and over the top sound similar when you don't understand the language. So, I mean, it all really just depends. It's kind of you take it a point-by-point basis. I personally don't mind the dub that much. The other point of contention is the performance issues which the game suffers from. Digital Foundry's I would suggest people check that out. It's one of the more interesting cases. It seems to be suffering from a pseudo Breath of the Wild issue where it's not the same thing, but it's similar in the sense that like it seems to have slowdown in areas, but Xenoblade is just inconsistent in the sense that like they use Gormod as the example. When you first go to Torgoth, which is like the first major city you go to, you can kind of run in the city, be perfectly fine, but as soon as you turn the fuck around and walk back the way you came, the game will just start slowing down for no reason. Which is weird because the game's already loaded it. So what is it? Is it caching memory and not being able to keep up with itself? I don't know. Hopefully the game continues to get patched because the game is super fun, but the performance issues will bug people, especially the handheld mode, because almost everybody I know, including myself, agrees the handheld mode doesn't look insanely great, which is partially due to the fact that I think the game just really focused on being good in dock mode. And granted, it's not like it's amazing in dock mode considering what kind of game it is, but it looked great. And I love the fucking art style. Now, someone who likes anime, this shit was already going to look good to me, period, because I like anime. So I like the anime art style. I know a lot of people don't because it's kind of weird. You went from like Xenoblade 1's it wasn't really anime. It was probably somewhat anime inspired, but it kind of like what Fire Emblem does, or old school Fire Emblem did, where it had anime influence in it, obviously because it's Japanese, but definitely wasn't just strictly going for that modern anime appearance. And then you went into X that got these really dead, stilted faces, which was like the worst fucking thing. It just, I mean, they're not, and to me, they don't look terrible, but it's obvious that it's really a step down, and everyone has like a case of dead face. They didn't emote, which was part of the main reason why they switched to the anime style anyway, because the anime style, you can be a lot more expressive and get a lot more emotion out of characters' faces. This game does suffer from what I like to call localization syndrome, which means that just like the Naruto Storm games, I think the Dragon Ball Z games suffer this. I think the One Piece games suffer this. Well, actually they don't, because the One Piece games don't have English dubs. A lot of Japanese games, when they get localized and they get English dubs, they never go back through the effort of reanimating scenes to fit the English dub. So what ends up happening is that Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm series is the absolute worst of this for their story mode. They keep the same animations for the Japanese voice acting with the lip sync, so the English dub lines don't sync up at all. In some very small cases, when it's really subtle words and shit, it'll sync up. But 90% of the time, it's kind of a fucking crapshoot. So I think the worst sequence is when you first introduce the Zeke and Pandoria, and Zeke does that whole Japanese getting all up in your face, and he's yelling, and he's opening his mouth and screaming. The lip sync is so fucking bad in this game. And once again, if you're used to playing Japanese games with not with English dubs, that don't have the budget or don't spend the budget on reanimating sequences for the English voice acting, then that's what you get. You get a lot of desync in your voice acting, which is the only other issue I have, which I've kind of gotten used to, although I can't fucking... I'll be honest with you, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't fucking stand it in Naruto. When I played Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, shit drove me at the fucking wall. I've kind of adjusted to it because you have no other choice other than playing it in Japanese, which a lot of people would suggest. I like the dub. I'm going to play it in English. I switched to the Japanese like once, and it was only for like maybe 5 minutes. I think I don't. The dub isn't bad enough for me. It doesn't actively get on my nerves, but it does have its very weird and stilted moments. And in a game that's like over 100 hours and has hundreds of, I would argue it probably has like hundreds of hours of dialogue. I can't really be like, it's fuckery. And it has so many improvements. The fact that the hearts to hearts are voice acted gives it a lot more character. And the fact that you can choose dialogue options is cool. Although I don't understand the point of it because you will never see the other dialogue option. The way the game is set up, you would have to save the game, do the heart to heart, pick an option, reload your save file and do the heart-to-heart again to get the other option. Now, granted, it gives you a different feel if you want to replay the game again, which, let's be real here, it's a 100-hour game. You don't really need to play the game again, unless you just really like the game. It's kind of like where Persona 5 was, where Persona 5 really didn't need to be replayed, but a lot of people replay it because they like the game so much. RPGs have that kind of effect on you, where you can sit there and play the game for 100 hours and be like, I'm still not done with this bitch. And because this game has a system that is just as addictive as other systems in RPGs in the form of the blade system, it begs for replayability. The fact that the heart to hearts and a lot of the cutscene, a lot of the like rare blade missions actually have voice acting in it makes the rare blades feel more personable and they're more interesting because they all have their own personalities, unique characteristics. And you even learn that through some of the subtle things, like there's a pouch system where you can get like blades and in your character's favorite items, and it does boosts for their stats. But if you get their specific items, then you can even unlock like their affinity. The game has so many fucking systems because like the battle system in itself is multi-layered, and then you're just talking about just the process of getting blades, getting rare blades, getting the side quests, specific side quests for the blades. And it's not like they just have one. They have multiple ones. Now, granted, their main one is like the multi-tiered one, but they actually have other ones like Heart to Hearts, and it's fucking great. I know people who would probably get into this game purely just for the affinity shit. May not give a fuck about the battle system and just want to get rare blades and learn all their stories because they're all different in their own unique ways. You got characters going from this, and the fact that they're all designed by like well-known artists in the Japanese gaming community, not even gaming, like gaming, manga, anime, hentai and shit. You have such a variety of artists, they all look different. So like you got characters who I think the artist for Code Geass has drawn some. You got some characters that literally look like they came straight out of a hentai, which I know has been some point of contention for some people. I personally don't give a fuck because I'm a deviant and I have no shame. I have absolutely no shame. After a certain point, you can't, because if you do, you're just living miserable. Be real with yourself. That's what I say. And I like the stories. I like the main story of the game. It's not. I'll be real with you. After beating the game goes almost exactly the way you think it does. It's one of those games that has a very simplistic story. It has a lot of lore and a lot of background detail, so if you give a fuck, it's there for you. But the general basic story, you could probably predict how it's gonna go. You can like even some of the twists in the game aren't like insane twists. They're interesting twists and they're very thought provoking, and it lends itself to the lore. But for the most part, it's not. It won't it won't really change. Like the end game is exactly what you think it is, and the ending is exactly what you think it is. And although that may be a problem for some, the characters and the interactions in the world you're traversing are so entertaining that I don't give a shit. I think every character gets represented pretty well. I think the only characters who don't are some of the villains, and that's because of I don't even want to call it pacing issues. It just seems like they didn't get enough time dedicated to them. They're introduced like pretty like kind of early, like half. Some of them are introduced like early, like the beginning of the game, and then some are introduced like halfway. And they're around. You keep seeing them, but they never really expand upon their characters until like around the final. What is that? Maybe 10 hours of the game, if that. I think I'm exaggerating. I don't even think it's 10 hours. I think it's like 2 to 5 hours. That's like my biggest gripe with the game is that, like, at least in the story sense, is that everyone is pretty well represented. I was surprised how fair the game was about addressing each of the characters, because usually what happens is that you get your first two party members, and then you get your later ones, and usually the game maybe give you a focus on like maybe 2 or 3 of them, while the other ones have like these really minor roles. It tripped me out that like the first, because you get I don't want to, actually I don't want to spoil it, but about which party members you get, but it tripped me out that one of the first party members you get, which is in the form of Tora, which is Tora Nia, the artificial blade, the robot girl you've been seeing in all the promotional material. It tripped me out that they were introduced pretty early. You get that's your second party member technically, next to Nia and Dromark, and then like, okay, fine. Okay, we get him. We got the general gist about he wants to be a driver, and he looks up to Rex and calls him Rex because he thinks he's cool and shit, and looks at him as like a sensei or whatever. And I'm like, okay, fine, that's gonna be the general gist of his story. We're not gonna get anything else for Tora. Spoiler, you get other things for Tora. It tripped me out. Like a good chunk of the game is focused on each of the characters, even though some of their arcs aren't like all encompassing, meaning they're not like just one straight thing. A lot of their characters' arcs, you will start at the beginning of the game and you kind of forget about it for a little while, and then it gets brought back up casually, and you're like, huh. So they didn't forget about them. And it's cool because it makes each of the characters relevant. Even if they're not relevant in that specific point in time, they will be relevant, and they will stay relevant. So you never forget about them. That's why I even remember their main blades names. I remember Rex, Pyra, Mithra, Poppy, Tora, Morag, Bridget, Zeke, Pandoria, Rock, Van Dam. It's that attention to detail and using them consistently that makes them appealing, and the fact that the game refuses to let you not forget about some of them, or most of them, I should say. As I said, the villains to me are the weakest part of the game. And it's only really because of the redundancy and motivations, and probably because of how underdeveloped some of them are. But then again, with the redundancy in character motives, it just kind of like, it's not that big of a deal, but it is something to consider. I haven't even talked about the battle system, which is this ridiculous combination of so many different things going on. Just explaining the battle system is nuts in itself, because there's different layers to the battle systems. Like the general battle system is your auto attacking, waiting for your arts to build up so you can do the arts that lead into more powerful attacks, which will eventually build up your special gauge so you can do your specials, which if you chain your specials together with the right elements, you can do this massive like elemental chain attack that does a ridiculous amount of damage. If you fill up your party gauge, you can then you'll have the flying orbs from whatever elemental chain attacks you did. You can break those to have this ongoing combo go around. And that's not even mentioning all the little physical effects you can be doing where you can seal their ability to summon certain monsters. If there are certain elements, you can seal their elements with these specials and chain attacks. You can do things like break and topple and launch and smash, which is this 4-tiered physical damage attributes, which A, stops them from attacking, B, can get you some cool items before you even beat them, and C, do a ridiculous amount of damage just from chaining 4 different types of attacks with these secondary effects. That's what trips me out. It's not even like a simple, the attack, I hit these 4 attacks until when they charge up and they gleats and everything else. A lot of these attacks have different fucking abilities. Some of them drop HP potions. Some of them cause one of those side effects like launch, break, topple, smash, whatever the fuck. Some of them extend the time those combos are around. I mean, those effects are around, so maybe it extends the time of break and shit. And because every character can wield a blade that has different attributes, whether it's some gauntlets, a fucking hammer, a fucking axe, your sword, a fucking ball that you can throw at your enemies and get back. And then on top of that, you got all the fucking different types of blades with all their goddamn character classes, which is, I believe, is healer, tank, and attacker. And it's like, it's only 3, but it can chain into some ridiculous shit. And it makes every character viable, because if one of your character has a really shitty attribute, like in the form of maybe they don't do a lot of damage, or they can't take hits, you just put some tank blades on them to negate their disadvantage. It won't automatically fix the problem, but it damn sure makes them more viable, makes you want to rotate your team out. There's so much shit in this game. And it trips me out that these guys that didn't have the balls to put this game out at the end of the year, like we didn't already have enough to be playing already. The game is so full of... Why does this game have DLC? That's another fucking question. They're like, here's a season pass for the next year. I'm sorry, what? Huh? Excuse me? Do you think that we're going to get bored after playing the game for 100 hours and not even like 50% of the damn shit to do in the game? Because you can also develop the towns that every town you go in, for the most part, you can develop by doing side missions, by doing mercenary quests, which is a whole nother feature in the fucking game, by buying food items and drinks and whatever, which builds up the economy. And all those things work out for you, because the greater the economy is, the actual areas change to a degree based on what you do. And it's like, it's so much, there's so many meta aspects to this game. I don't understand how people are sitting there going, oh, it was rushed. How? Maybe because the performance isn't great, but the game itself was not rushed. It may not have been optimized. I could agree with that to a degree. Rush would imply the game wouldn't have enough. The game arguably has so much, it's staggering. It's staggering how much shit you can do. And then these dudes had the balls to sit down there and say, oh yeah, we'll make some more stuff for you. What? Dude. I love this game. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love Xenoblade 2. And from what I've looked up and heard about its connection to the first Xenoblade, it's actually a really cool connection. Which gets into some in-game stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but still. Good shit. It's good shit. And you should play it. I understand a lot of people are probably busy. A lot of you probably are still playing Mario and Zelda and fucking Doom and so many other games. There was a whole bunch of games that came out in 2017. A lot of people haven't even finished, myself included. That's why I got a stack of PS4 games that none of them been beaten yet, except for Sonic, because I am a piece of shit. Nah, because I'm a fucking fanboy. But this is a good game. This is a really fun, really good game. It has its issues. It's not a groundbreaking story, but it is an entertaining and fun story. It has enjoyable characters, likable characters. It has its issues with its voice acting, but you can switch to the Japanese if it bothers you that much. It has DLC if you think there isn't enough to do in the game, which I don't know how you would think that, but if you do, there is DLC for you to be able to buy for the game if you care that much about it. And man, the world of All Rest is so fucking cool, yo. It's so fucking cool. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game. Play to win. And I will catch you guys later. No, the fuck that it was. That was my dead fish impression. I can't even do the... Nope. There we go. Nope, it's trash. I'll catch you guys later. Peace. Oh.